The rain began the moment she stepped off the bus. Mira's boots sank into the wet mud as the final streak of daylight disappeared behind the blackening clouds. The driver didn't wait. He slammed the door and drove away, leaving her in the middle of a narrow road, surrounded by jungle on all sides. She pulled the hood of her jacket tighter and glanced at her phone. No signal. She'd come here for silence, for escape, for something that didn't stare back at her with pitying eyes. But the silence she found now was too complete, too heavy, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath. The guest house she had rented was supposed to be a 10-minute walk from the bus stop. She followed the dirt trail, her flashlight beam quivering with each shiver that passed through her hands. After 20 minutes of walking, the road ended in darkness. No house, no sign, only the suffocating black of the forest swallowing the world. She whispered to herself, "You probably missed a turn." She turned around, but the path behind her seemed different, narrower. The rain had erased her footprints. The trees stood closer, leaning in like voyeurs. Then came the whisper. It wasn't the wind. Mira froze. The sound drifted from somewhere ahead. A thin, wet murmur, like someone whispering through water. She tightened her grip on the flashlight and stepped forward. Her heart beat hard enough that she could hear the blood in her ears. The beam caught something, a shape between the trees. Stone. A black archway, old and half swallowed by vines. A cave entrance gaped beneath it, its mouth wide and slick with moss. Shelter, she thought, just for a while. She ducked inside. The rain outside softened to a dull, distant drumming. The air in the cave was colder, wrong, as if she'd stepped into a place the world had forgotten. Her flashlight illuminated the walls, ancient carvings etched deep into the stone. Twisted figures with hollow eyes, their mouths stretched open as if screaming. Mira's breath misted in front of her. She should have turned back then. But the whispering returned, louder now. Not one voice, but many. Layers of soft, desperate sounds, and behind the whispers came the smell. Iron, rot, and damp earth. Her light caught something on the floor. She crouched. A hand, pale, bloated, stiff. She jerked back, stumbling, the flashlight beam sweeping across the cavern. Dozens of shapes lay on the ground, half covered by mud and old leaves. Human shapes. Limbs bent wrong, flesh gone grey. Her scream never fully formed. The whispering rose like wind in a chimney, circling her, slipping under her skin. She staggered toward the entrance. But the archway was gone. Where there had been an opening was now solid stone. Cold panic flooded her veins. No, no, no. Her flashlight flickered. For an instant she saw movement among the bodies. A head turned. A jaw creaked. A milky eye rolled toward her. Then another. And another. The corpses began to rise. Their movements were jerky, as though remembering how to move. Their mouths hung open, whispering without sound. Mira backed away, her hands scraping the stone wall. This isn't real. One of them lurched forward. A woman with tangled black hair plastered to her skull. Her jaw was split wide down the middle. Something moved behind her teeth, writhing like worms. Mira turned and ran deeper into the cave. Her light barely worked now, a dying pulse. I'm dreaming. The passage sloped downward, the air growing wetter, thicker. She tripped on something soft, another body. She didn't look, she kept running. The tunnel opened into a cavern, huge and round, the ceiling lost in darkness. In the center was a pit, a deep, breathing pit. The earth itself pulsed, expanding and contracting like a lung. Mira froze. The whispers came from inside it. A shape rose slowly from the pit, as though the darkness itself had decided to take form. A long, glistening figure without a face. Only a yawning hole where a mouth should have been. Around it, the dead knelt, their whispers harmonizing into one steady chant. She understood none of the words, but every syllable scraped at her mind like a claw. The thing lifted an arm, not bone or flesh, but something in between, black and wet. It pointed at her. The bodies turned their heads toward Mira in unison. She screamed and ran along the cavern wall, searching for an exit. There was none. The tunnel she'd come from had sealed itself with stone. Her legs trembled, her lungs burned. The chanting grew louder. The creature moved toward her without touching the ground, its long limbs dragging behind. From the hole in its face came a sound like sucking mud. Mira stumbled backward, and her foot slipped. She fell hard onto something. It wasn't stone. It was a rib cage, human, still warm. The creature hovered above her now, blocking the little light left. Its mouth widened, wider than anything human, revealing nothing but darkness. She felt it pulling at her, not just at her body, but at her thoughts, her voice, her name. Mira. The thing spoke her name inside her skull. "No!" she screamed. "Get out of my head!" But her voice dissolved into the whispering around her. She tried to crawl away. Hands shot out of the ground, grasping her ankles. Cold, dead fingers dragged her toward the pit. She clawed at the earth. Her nails snapped. The stone tore her palms open. The creature leaned closer, and she saw inside the darkness. Faces. Countless faces. Twisting, screaming, eaten alive by shadow. "Join us." The last of the flashlight's glow died. She woke in silence. The cave was gone. She stood in the middle of the road where she had started, rain still falling in soft sheets. Her hands were clean. Her phone beeped faintly. One bar of signal. The guest house lights flickered faintly in the distance. "Just a nightmare," she whispered, though her voice shook. She began to walk toward the house, breathing hard but relieved. Then she heard it again. The whispering. Not outside. Inside. Inside her head. Her breath caught. She touched her throat. Something cold pressed against her skin from the inside. Slowly she turned her gaze to a puddle at her feet. The water reflected her face. Her mouth hung slightly open. And from the darkness inside her throat, something whispered back. The next morning, the bus driver swore he saw her walking toward the jungle. Slowly, barefoot, her head tilted to the side like something listening. When the police searched the forest, they found no footprints. But if you stand in that forest at night, when the rain begins and the moon disappears behind the clouds, you might hear it too. A soft, wet whisper, calling a name that isn't yours. And if you answer, the pit will open again.